Hello, everyone. There is often a moment, subtle, easy to miss, when your relationship with money no longer feels exactly the same. Not better, not worse, just different. You might notice it in silence, in pauses where anxiety used to rush in thoughts that no longer spiral the way they once did. Nothing external announces this moment. No clear sign, no guarantee. Yet internally, something loosens. You may find that certain financial worries don't grip you as tightly. They're still there, but they don't dominate your emotional landscape in the same way. The urgency softens. The panic loses volume. This can feel confusing at first, because when struggle has been loud for a long time, quiet can feel unfamiliar, even suspicious. You might catch yourself wondering why you're not reacting the way you used to. Why the pressure to fix everything immediately feels weaker. Why your nervous system isn't on constant alert. This doesn't mean everything is resolved. It doesn't mean anything is guaranteed. It simply suggests that your internal relationship with money may be shifting before circumstances do. Many people expect change to feel explosive, but sometimes it begins as neutrality, a moment where money thoughts stop carrying emotional charge, where you observe instead of brace, where you breathe instead of contract. This neutrality isn't indifference, it's regulation. And regulation often comes before clarity. You may notice yourself becoming less reactive to financial comparisons. Other people's success doesn't sting the same way. Other people's opinions don't weigh as heavily. Not because you stopped caring, but because your sense of self is no longer fully tied to outcomes. This phase can feel lonely, not because you're isolated, but because few people talk about it. It's the space between survival and stability, between fear and trust, between forcing and allowing. And if you're here listening to this, it's possible you've already felt traces of this quiet. If that resonates, type yes in the comments. Not to claim anything, just to acknowledge awareness, because awareness is often the first shift. As this quiet continues, you may begin noticing how certain money patterns no longer control you the way they once did. Patterns like overthinking every expense, or tying your worth to productivity, or feeling guilty when you rest. These habits don't disappear suddenly. They simply stop feeling inevitable. You may notice hesitation before engaging in stress-driven decisions. A pause where you ask yourself whether pressure is actually necessary, whether urgency is truly helpful or just familiar. This can feel destabilizing because for a long time, stress may have been your motivator. Fear may have been your fuel. Control may have felt like safety. Letting go of those drivers even slightly can feel like stepping into uncertainty. But uncertainty doesn't always mean danger. Sometimes it means choice. You may start questioning why certain financial goals mattered so much, whether they reflected your values or someone else's expectations. You may realize that some of your stress wasn't about money itself, but about what money represented: security, validation, freedom, or survival. When these realizations surface, emotions can rise. Grief for the years spent in constant tension, anger for the pressure you carried alone, confusion about what motivates you now. None of these emotions are wrong. They're signs of integration. You're not rejecting ambition. You're redefining it. You're not losing discipline. You're reclaiming agency. This stage often includes moments where you feel less compelled to explain yourself, less eager to justify your pace, less influenced by external timelines. That doesn't make you passive. It makes you self-directed. And self-direction changes how you approach money. Instead of chasing relief, you begin valuing steadiness. Instead of reacting, you begin observing. Instead of forcing, you begin selecting. If you've noticed old money habits loosening, even slightly, comment clarity, not as certainty, but as presence. Because recognizing a pattern is different from being ruled by it. One of the most delicate shifts around money happens when you start allowing moments of ease without immediately anticipating loss. You may notice small things: a bill paid without dread, a calm response to an unexpected expense, a conversation about finances that doesn't spike your heart rate. These moments might feel insignificant, but emotionally, they're profound, because for many people, money has been associated with tension for so long that calm feels unsafe. Your body might still expect something to go wrong. Your mind might scan for hidden threats. Your system might stay alert even when things are stable. But now you may find yourself staying present instead of bracing. This doesn't mean you trust blindly. It means you trust yourself to respond if needed. That distinction matters. Receiving isn't about abundance appearing. It's about allowing neutrality, allowing moments where money isn't the main character in your emotional life. You may also notice shifts in how you relate to work. Less desperation, less overextension, more discernment. You may say no more easily, or pause before committing, or ask for clarity instead of absorbing uncertainty. These choices don't guarantee outcomes, but they protect your energy, and energy protection influences longevity. This phase often includes redefining what enough means, not as limitation, but as grounding. Enough rest, enough clarity, enough stability to function without fear. You may also notice hidden feelings surfacing around money and identity. Questions like, who am I without struggle? Who am I when I'm not proving? What do I want when survival isn't the main concern? These questions aren't meant to be answered quickly. They're meant to be felt, because feeling precedes clarity. If this openness to receiving without panic resonates, type alignment, not as a declaration, but as acknowledgement. Because receiving without collapse is a form of strength. As these internal shifts settle, something subtle happens in how you relate to the future. Not optimism, not certainty, but steadiness. You may notice that financial uncertainty doesn't dominate your emotional landscape the way it once did, that you trust your ability to adapt more than you fear outcomes, that your sense of safety is less dependent on immediate results. This doesn't mean everything feels resolved. It means you feel capable of navigating complexity, capable of making adjustments, capable of responding rather than reacting. This grounded confidence doesn't come from external validation. It comes from internal regulation, from knowing you can pause, from knowing you can choose, from knowing you don't need to rush clarity. At this stage, surprising shifts may occur not because you force them, but because you're no longer blocking yourself with fear. These shifts might look like clearer conversations, healthier boundaries, better aligned opportunities, reduced friction, not dramatic, not guaranteed, just possible. And possibility feels different when you're grounded. As you sit with this message, remember, you don't need to believe anything fully. You don't need to predict outcomes. You don't need to rush change. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't, trust your internal pacing. Whatever unfolds next, you remain aware, capable, and self-directed. And sometimes that internal shift is the most meaningful one of all. Stay grounded, stay observant, and allow clarity to emerge in its own time.